Welcome back to another episode of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast. This is the podcast all about New Zealand spirits for you, the consumer. And we get to connect with the distillers and the spirits behind it all. My name's Tom. I run Herrick Creek Distillery, and I'm joined by my friend Cameron, who runs Discovering Drams.
Absolutely. Oh, I love what we do. What was really funny was walking into Dramfest, where we went in together and largely spent the day together going around. It's always nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off and talk to. And Ro from Whisky saw us and said, she saw us and said, "Don't the two of you spend enough time together as it is?"
She did, yeah. Well, actually, Ro, we don't see each other that often.
Actually, it's not that often that we get to spend time together like that. And so when we do, it's great. And if it also means that we can have a chat about, and this episode, what's new in the world of dark spirits.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting. I mean, it's an exciting time.
It is.
I was just going to ask you quickly off topic, though. Have you ever grown a beard?
Yep. Sure have. Number of times.
Where is it?
I will send you through a picture. I think the most recent one I did may well have been my lockdown beard, where if you want a good picture, I very much looked like, if you remember Captain Haddock from the Tintin comics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
that was very much my vibe.
Yeah.
But the plain and simple truth is my wife does not appreciate it. Oh. She does say that I suit a beard, that from a distance I look very well with facial hair, but up close as my wife, she does not appreciate it at all.
Oh, jeez. All right. Oh, well. I was just thinking you'd make a good beard guy.
Yeah. And the answer is I do, okay. And I would.
Oh, okay.
But I don't.
Well, speaking of beards...
What?
No, not at all. We're just talking about dark spirits and what's new and fun in the world. But we've got a few on the table in front of us today that have come into the shop recently here at the Juniper Collective. But it's on the up right now, dark spirits, specifically whiskey. Whiskey's always... intriguing people with what's coming out. And the prices are starting to come down a bit. I think we're starting to see. For New Zealand spirits.
Yeah, I think there's two factors at play here. And one is, obviously, if I started a whiskey distillery today, I wouldn't be bringing anything out for at least 3 to 4 years, Yeah. So part of this is just the natural, that worldwide there was a bit of a boom, which saw production ramp up here in New Zealand, and it has just taken that lead time for product actually to become available.
Yeah.
So at a much wider, bigger picture, that has been happening. Also, we're coming into winter now, colder months. People are starting to look to those darker spirits to enjoy on a colder evening, and so both of those factors are playing into account, and there's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and stuff that's not on the table, like Cardrona we talked about before. They've got their full lineups out now. They're still doing special releases and whatnot. Thompson, we saw them at Dramfest with their new smoked two-tone, Manuka smoked two-tone.
Smoke rings,
that's the one. That's quite interesting and new. We haven't got that in the shop yet, but we will soon. Waihiki's still got their great lineup, and then we're expecting a lineup shake-up in the next year or so. New Zealand Whisky Collection, they're still going through with we talked about the Solera cask with them. That's coming out with Cyril's Solera cask.
That's right.
What else has been happening?
Well, this was, I think you casually mentioned this to me here. So I had heard of Dancing Sands as a gin distillery.
Yeah, of course.
And then you turned to me and you said, "Have you tried their aged rum?" And I said, "I'm sorry, they're making rum now." When did that happen?
Apparently 7 years ago, when they first opened the distillery, they decided they were going to put down a big batch of rum. and it's ready. It was just sort of a surprise. Suddenly, I heard from Sarah, the one of the owners, that we've got a 7-year-old rum, and okay, 7 years from Golden Bay, and
Made from molasses,
really
40%.
good price point at just $100 for a full-size 700ml bottle. And for me, I've tried this one before already,
Yep.
but it's exactly what you want out of a nice dark rum, you know?
It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, there's nothing spiced about it, but you've got that
No.
the rum funk, a bit of the barrel influence to it.
Yeah, it's that molasses. I know you don't like this one, but golden syrup. It's far more golden syrup than it is maple.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there's a healthy mix of the sweeter, sugary notes, as well as those kind of darker, richer kind of flavors as well.
Mm-hmm. And on the palate, it's just you get even more of that rich sort of syrup taste. The sweetness comes through. It's sort of a thick, syrupy, almost sugar, like not too thick, not like an actual syrup, but it starts sort of thick and then ends dry, which is really nice.
Yes, yeah, that in that finish, it goes from the darker, richer characters through into a bit more lighter vanilla sweetness.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit of a wave happening there.
This is what I want from a rum, right there,
Right.
you know? It's exactly what it says on the bottle.
Yeah, it's not spiced. There are no real surprises. It does what it says on the tin. It's a
I think it's
decent, solid rum.
been aged for a good amount of time, and it comes out really nice, yeah. So well done to them. I don't know if it's sticking around forever or what, but if you want a bottle, I think it's probably get a bottle now. I think at $100 for what it is, I think it's an amazing value.
Most definitely.
There's still more rums around. You know, we've got Last Light. We've talked about them before. They're from Auckland. They've got some amazing pot still rum and the cash strength Solera rums and stuff like that.
In fact, I'm going to be hosting a rum tasting in July here at the Juniper Collective.
Yeah.
So this is a chance for maybe you're rum curious, you want to know a wee bit more, but we will certainly be we'll be tasting some of these newer distilleries to come out.
Yeah, and that'll be really exciting. Rum's one of those categories that, you know, people say they like rum, but they don't really explore too much into it. So there's a lot of different characters we can pull from those different bottles, I think.
Yeah, it's as much as one of the main reasons that I love whiskey as a category is the fact that, you can go from like a single grain, where, something very wheated and light over there, you can go something all the way over the other end that's peated, smoke, heavy, medicinal, sulfuric. There is a massive range of flavours and characters that you can find in the world of whiskey. And rum, similarly, you've got a white rum, which is all pineapple, coconut, banana, and then nice golden rum in the middle, and then you can have a real dark blackstrap rum, which is molasses and treacle and all of those kinds of things. So it's a wide house.
It is, yeah. And as we've talked about in the past, it's not really regulated on what each one is, of course, and it's kind of the Wild West. It's quite fun. But that's amazing. I think that Dancing Sand one's is really good value.
That's solid. Absolutely solid.
Yeah.
Great sipper. I don't feel like, sipping this 40%. To me, it's not crying out for anything.
No, exactly.
But if you were to add this to probably a ginger beer over a cola for my personal preference. But a nice dark and stormy. You have a great time. Have it neat. Have it on the rocks.
Yeah.
Mix it up. This is going to treat you right either way you go.
Yep. Line 44 is the other rum brand that's been picking up a bit of steam down in Timaru. We got a couple of theirs around here, and And then as well, National Distilling Company with Port Ahuriri probably remains one of my favourite New Zealand rums. They're golden
But they've also
rum.
got their 1642.
1642.
Yeah.
That's my mother-in-law's favourite of them. She really likes that one. So yeah, if you were curious about rum, come to the tasting. I think that'd be a really fun way to explore them some more.
Tickets from the Juniper Collective website.
Yep. And then we look at whiskey now, right? I mean, we've got a new one.
Where do we start?
Well, that's a good one. Yeah.
Here.
It's a tough.
I feel like we end with 1919.
Yep. So do we start with oat or the unknown?
Well, let's start with oat.
Okay, let's start with oat. So we might have talked about this one maybe on our gift guide back in...
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ald's first release of an aged whiskey, and it's an oat whiskey for their farm centenary. So Rob's, I think it was his grandfather, bought the farm, and now it's been 100 years, and they're very excited to have released, I think it's a 5-year-old oat whiskey, 44%.
It's a great story of Rob looking at some of these older Wilson's whiskey bottles and being told, like, your dad and your grandfather grew the barley that was going into these, and that little light going off in his head going, why can't we do that now?
Yeah.
So a wonderful story. Old is also doing some crowdfunding at the moment for the next range, for the next expansion. So certainly there are a range of levels, everything from, a $5 investment, which I think might get you a wee voucher, through to a mid kind of in that $60 to $100 price bracket, where you might get a hip flask with some whiskey in it, and of course goes all the way up into the thousands, where that then gets you a personalised tour of the farm and the distillery and
distillery for a day,
distiller for a day, and all of
own a cask, I think, and own a share of a cask, all that stuff.
You thought about being distiller for a day?
I wouldn't know anything about it.
But certainly one to have a look at. Head over to their website to check that out.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll still be available by time this comes out, but hopefully it is. And give your support to them for sure, because they're trying to release their first single malt, the barley.
Right.
Yeah, so that's where they're going with that one. But this one, I'm getting a bit of a minty note on the top of that smell. Do you kind of get that?
Yeah, almost menthol. And sometimes I hear just reviewers or what have you talk about menthol coming in from a whiskey, and it's always a funny note to get, but there is a bit of that, but it's also this real kind of creamy texture on the nose, which again, how do you know you're a nerd? You know you're a nerd when you start talking about nose texture, like it's a thing, but I swear that it is.
And then you drink it, and it's this creamy feel on the mouth, but then also like peppery on the taste, which is quite interesting. So like creamy mouth feel, but peppery on the tip of my tongue, which is really interesting. Oats is just a different ball game,
It's giving Horopito vibes.
Almost, yeah. Like feel wise. Yeah. It is a different taste. It's not like grain, it's like porridge, almost.
This is what porridge could be.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it is worth... just for saying, so when we talk... 99% of the time when we are talking about whiskey, we are talking about a spirit made from malted barley. But barley is not the only grain that you can make whiskey from.
Yep.
And certainly if you are looking at some blended grain whiskies, and so this would be a whiskey that has been made with a blend of different types of grain, it is very common to find oat or wheat or something along those kinds of lines in on the mash bill. More common in bourbon, but not unheard of in the world of Scotch.
Yeah. And Ald obviously grows all their own grains.
Absolutely, they do.
So they've done barley, corn, oats, triticale, rye, among, I'm sure, others as well. So it'll be exciting to see how the single grains come out, and then how maybe a blend. I've asked Rob about this,
Yes,
and
yeah.
he said, we'll see, we're just going to do what tastes good. So
That was great. After the final seminar at Dramfest, and Rob was Rob had been a panelist, and he was there talking to Dave Broom, and Dave had to go off to the book signing. So
and before you go on, it was funny because the lady from Whiskey Galore thought we were waiting to get signatures from Dave Broom.
That was my point.
Actually, we're here for Rob.
Actually, we're here to talk to Rob. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
And so she was able to usher Dave away, and we stood there and pestered Rob with questions for the next 5 minutes. So yes, I think that was quite funny. That yes, we were actually there queuing up to talk to Rob.
Where were you going with that? Sorry.
No. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of that.
Yeah, that was fun to talk to him about that, and I think he's excited as any of us to get his whiskeys released. I think he really wants to see it out in the world, but he's been very keen to see it really hit a certain age. And good on him for that, because it's hard to wait 7 years.
Yes. That's the hard work of any business, is especially in the distilling game, which is all right. We've got a lot of outgoing costs.
Yep.
And okay, what are we doing to bring money in?
Yeah. If you're keen, these come in little 200ml bottles, but they come in a nice box. It's a really good collecting item, I think. I think it's one of those ones you could put in your collection. Like, this is the first release from Ald. They've done a good job presenting it. We will see a lot more from Ald. So if you're keen on one, grab one.
Juniper Collective.
Juniper Collective, yep.
Now, I don't even know if I'd heard of Fenton Street as a gin distillery, but clearly they were a gin distillery before they came out with a whiskey.
Yep. Yeah, we've known them here as a gin distillery for a while, and recently we got the range back in stock, and they reached out after the gins came in and said, how about some whiskey? We said, yeah, absolutely, I didn't even know.
and see, that is my point, is that I'm not even sure if I'm following them on Facebook, but how else would you learn about the fact that, hang on, this distillery all of a sudden now has a whiskey release? How else would you find out about this if you weren't a listener of Distil-Nation?
NZ, yep. So what we know about this is it is a single malt whiskey. It's been aged in small French oak barrels for 2 years and 3 months. Is that what it says on the back there, Cameron?
Let me check.
It's written on the side in handwriting.
Yes, 2 years, 3 months.
Yeah, so small French oak barrels, medium char. They've gone as far as to say deionized water, and they've given us some tasting notes, of course. Triple distilled, though. Oh, interesting.
That is. Oh. Now, I think that was the Dramfest prior. Porcano had their triple distilled, but that was a special release that they did. That's not their standard process.
Now, this is quite interesting. I'm almost taken back to one of those. Have you ever been to one of the, for example, the Ferrymead Heritage Park? You've been there.
Yep.
You know, and you go to one of these museum towns and you walk into one of the old buildings and you can smell the wood of the old building. You know what I mean?
I do.
That's what I'm getting in this. It's like you walk into an old wooden building and you can smell the raw wood in the walls.
I just had to look up where this was from because I was not familiar with Stratford, New Zealand. And if you were looking at a picture of the North Island and how you've got the head of the fish, which is Wellington, down the far bottom, and then off to the west coast, it kind of curves around into that.
Taranaki.
Yeah. That is where are we? South of New Plymouth. Yeah.
Yeah, south of New Plymouth.
By the Egmont National Park.
Yeah.
No, it was just not an area of the country that I'm familiar with. Interesting. Okay.
That to me is so interesting. It's a very almost what's that type of wood I'm thinking of? It's cedar.
And there's a dusty quality.
Yeah.
A real,
Dusty cedar.
It's almost... Yeah, not quite leather-bound books with rich mahogany, but you're getting into that kind of... Yeah, oh, absolutely. I am now putting my nose in there. It is giving me off like historic town vibes.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
On the taste, it's got a whole bunch more going on.
I think part of that that almost mustiness on the nose, that's coming through as Manuka. I'm getting that.
Yeah.
And so there is a bit more of a kind of a woody quality.
I'm certainly getting the clovey sort of cinnamon on the taste. They put some tasting notes on the back, which is unfortunately getting stuck in my mind now.
Yeah,
but
that's always the way. If I get something new, I always try and write my notes before I go on the website to find out more about it.
No. The cedar note to me, it's cedar. It's 100% like raw cedar wood. Wow. It's interesting that they can just get that at a French oak and a bit of char and some barley.
You're right. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of virgin French oak as a barrel, but maybe spices, vanilla, cloves. It's just there really is a lot going on, and I am very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, this is unique, and I like that. Defines the character of what makes us truly unique. Yep, it is unique.
I don't know what the music is that's playing in the shop right now, but it's giving like...
It's the perfect vibe.
It's the absolute... I feel like I should be chewing on a bit of straw, sitting out on a porch in a rocking chair, just...
It brings me back to that historic village town.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be sitting like with a wagon wheel with a rocking chair on the front porch and just relaxing, and
somebody walks past and it's like, oh, we
yeah. My missus gone missing.
We don't get too many people from here around in those parts. So yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I could. I think it's a new smell for me from a whiskey. So I'm coming back, and I like the smell of it. We might have to sit with that one for a bit.
I think I will.
Yeah, because that's
small barrel aged.
That's the first time we've both tried this.
Yep. But I definitely feel this is deserving of a whole lot more time and a proper review.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of flavors to explore in there. Yeah.
And triple distilled.
Triple distilled.
Huh.
Good job, guys, creating something unique. That's not just another single malt aged in ex-bourbon. So well done.
No. Wow.
I know. I'm actually I'm a bit speechless, if I'm honest.
It's,
In a good way.
yeah. To have a
I'm going to email them today and let them know.
guys, didn't know what to expect.
But it's taken me to a time and place, and it's actually taken me. It's transported me, and that's pretty hard to do, I'd say. Like to get that sort of vibe from a spirit is difficult. So, good job. Now, we've talked about this one with our Dram Fest.
Yep.
The next one. This is Trans-Pacific from 1919. This was released alongside their ex-bourbon cask one. This is the ex-Jamaican rum cask. Mm-hmm. And we tried the cask strength version of this at
We
Dram
did.
Fest.
And I poured this one at my New Year, New Spirits, New Year, New Whiskey tasting at Smoke and Barrel.
How'd that go?
As an event, it went great.
Yeah.
Good crowd, good people. But it's fair to say that, like rum cask finishes, it divided the room.
Really? Yeah.
That the people who loved it, and everybody else was kind of sitting on the fence and unsure.
You've always got one of those.
But that's why people,
that's
why
fun.
I hope people come to my
It is,
events,
that's
because
what's
I
fun
am
about it.
going to throw something out there like, hey, I bet you hadn't considered this.
Yeah.
And I think a few people speaking specifically about this one had said, God, I was eyeing this up. I saw that it was released. I saw that it was out there, but it was just kind of, oh man, I was just unsure about it. And so they certainly said specifically about this one, like, I'm really glad that you had it as part of the lineup.
Yeah.
Because it's retailing for 190.
Yeah, close to that. Yeah.
And they'd straight up said, hey, look, I wasn't sure. 190 is a gamble to take.
It is. Yeah.
On something that if you're not sure you're going to like it, if you're not sure you're going to like it or not.
And especially a rum cask, that's a gamble for sure.
And it is, but what I do appreciate about this is the fact he's called it a Jamaican rum cask, and it
comes through.
Is.
Like it is,
It absolutely comes through. And it's more than just, I've had some rum finished whiskies, speaking very generally about whiskey in general, where it's like, it's a bit sweeter, a bit more vanilla than I would normally get from them. Okay.
I think one of the best expressions of a rum cask has always been, to me, the Balvenie Caribbean cask.
Yes.
And I remember 2 Dram Fests ago, I got to try the rum that they had seasoned the casks
Oh, wow.
with.
Okay.
And it was the best rum I'd ever had. It was amazing. And they don't sell it. They just they are just making that to season the casks for Balvenie, apparently. But they had brought it to that one for us to try. And I remember me and my brother-in-law, we were like, wow, like, can we buy this rum?
So that would have been 2020?
2019, yeah.
No,
2018.
Okay.
Yeah,
20, no, I
2018.
wasn't at the 2018.
At Town Hall, yeah.
No, 2018 was at the Wolfbrook Arena. Yeah, it was, because at that point I think we had just come home from the hospital with my son, and I was looking at the photos. So 2018 was at the it wasn't called Wolfbrook
Actually,
Arena.
I'm
then.
100% sure 2018 was at Town Hall.
I'll
I'm
look that up.
100% sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because, and this is totally off topic for the
Way
podcast,
off topic.
but my brother-in-law moved to China, and then we couldn't go to Dram Fest anymore, and I didn't go to another Dram Fest with him that wasn't at Town Hall. So I've only been to one at Town Hall.
Yeah, the one at the town hall was 2020.
Because what have we had? We've had 2018, and then we had 2021. Have we had 4 Dram Fests since then? That doesn't matter, does it? I don't know what Cameron's looking at, but he's looking at his phone.
I'm looking up 2018. Sorry, would you like to look at this picture of the 2018 Dramfest in then Horncastle Arena?
All right, I'm wrong. Yep. So it must be 2021 because 2020 was cancelled, wasn't it?
No. 2020, because that was end of Feb, and
okay, yes, okay, so it was 2020. And you're right. Yes.
Dave Broom got stuck in New Zealand for lockdown.
Yes. Okay, 2020.
I was also at, not that I knew you then, but 2020, I was also there with my brother-in-law.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I know. Small world.
Yeah, small world.
But no, I can't. I
remember, we did go to that talk. I don't know if we paid or if we just walked in randomly, but we sat down and they just poured us the drink, and I thought, wow, that's a good rum. You know, we both looked at each other, and like we were both just sort of into spirits, but not as serious as we are nowadays. But we really loved that one. I'll never forget that rum. But this one here is unique in that it's funk, rum funk, not just rum. I think there's a funk.
And I love the fact that Soren has put on there. It is a Jamaican rum finish as opposed to just rum finish.
Yeah,
putting some. Because yes, I'm not the biggest rum connoisseur or rum drinker, but it just does.
And for me,
big and bold.
Right on the tip of the tongue, you get a real quick bolt of rum, but then it pulls back to whiskey, but then it pulls back to a blend of both. You know, it pulls back into something a little bit charry, smoky. Is it rum? Is it whiskey? It's interesting. Yeah.
And yes. There's a lot
to explore in that.
There is a lot to explore. This is another one where you really can pour yourself a large glass, and there's a lot of complexity there, and you can sit and add the water. I would say that at cask strength, everything was just turned up to 11. It was way more heightened. You've got much more of an opportunity, and I certainly remember Soren pouring that for us at Dramfest and me going like, wow. And I think there was a wee bit more confusion. Like, is this rum? Are you sure that it's whiskey?
Yeah. It was quite a big influence. I mean, the color's really light on it.
It's golden, like banana kind of.
Yeah. But it's one that you'd sit down and easily explore for an evening, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd like to pull one more off the shelf if I could.
Yeah, okay.
We'll just pause for a second. I thought I'd just pull out one more, and it's a cheeky plug, I guess, but this is, it's fairly new, you know. It is my own Lake Marie single malt, which is a lightly peated New Zealand whiskey.
Oh, yes. It is.
Now, you know Nigel from St. John's, we talked to Nigel.
I do, yep.
He runs some charity whiskey tastings sometimes. They're really good, so if you keep an eye out for those. He described this to me, the note that I've been kind of missing, as like a garden string bean is on the nose. Have they like cracked a fresh like...
Yes, I have.
And he's like, that's something like that. I was like,
Actually...
That's the one. That's
nice note, Nigel.
Yeah, that was a really good note.
Yeah.
Because this is about a third peated barley, but the peat is kind of hidden in this one. It kind of comes and goes. It sort of sneaks around on the nose. It's quite subtle, but on the tongue it'll hit you and it'll go away. And it's one of those ones that if you're not too into smoky whiskies, you could still enjoy this one. I think.
It's up front on the nose. It's certainly not hiding, but it's very dry. It certainly. So, what I fear is that some people hear peated whiskey and immediately get something like Lefroy in their heads. Yeah. And no, this is not medicinal or herbal or wet or iodine or any kinds of like just. Put that away. Certainly doesn't go down in that direction.
No.
But yeah, very kind of. Yeah, Craig's. That's a really good one. It's also like emptying out the cold fireplace the next day. So all the ashes are cold, they've been left overnight, you're emptying out the fireplace, and there's just a hint of ashiness, but it's very dry.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah. Yeah, I've had fun crafting this one, and I think future batches will be slightly different, but it is the same mash bill. I think the barrel influence, the main barrel that we used was an ex-bourbon cask, and then it was split, and most of it went into this ex-corn whiskey cask that had this, and that's where the vegetal note is coming from. That cask had a very vegetal smell to it. I remember putting it into there, and that's where that note's coming from. And then
it's quite sweet. There is a sweetness underlying.
So a very small amount, it went into an ex-maple syrup cask.
Aha!
Mm-hmm. And another small amount went into a new American oak cask, just to get us some color. And that was all blended back together in the end. All three little casks. The ex-corn cask was about 100 liters. The other two were about 20 liters. And we ended up with this Lake Marie, which the other ones in the future won't be that blend of barrels. I don't plan to move them around in the barrels too much. But yeah, this was a first rendition of it, and it's been pretty popular. This.
Yeah, there's definitely I'm picking up some of the corn sweetness, but there is also that maple underneath.
It's very subtle, the maple.
Very subtle. I don't think I would have picked it if you hadn't said, but
it was just enough. I kind of wanted that little small bit of sweetness to come through, but I didn't want it to be a note per se, like a defining note of it being a maple finish whiskey. Yeah. And it worked. Yeah, it worked nicely. And that's the fun of being a distiller, is we get to do stuff like that. Move them around in barrels. And that's what I like about small barrels, is we have more, with less whiskey, we have more room to move stuff around through different barrels.
Yeah.
If we were moving 200-liter barrels around, it'd be really hard to find that sort of stock to be able to do that sort of thing. So with our small barrels, I distill it in a way that is meant to be drunk young. And I think it's okay for a young whiskey. It doesn't taste to me like it's still a new spirit. I think it tastes like a properly aged spirit, but that's coming from me. And your honest feedback is always appreciated, but that's how it comes across to me.
I do try to give honest feedback. But no, for sure, it's lovely, balanced blend of flavours happening in there.
So there's lots happening in the whiskey world, and we'll keep our ear to the ground to see what's coming out, and who we can chat to about
that's just it. I never would have heard of Fenton Street otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't even even Dancing Sands. I still would have thought, they're making their gin and they're doing all right. So I think it is heartening, given that a lot of the wider talk is doom and gloom and recession, all of those things, and
fair enough.
Yeah, there is a certain amount of that, but actually to see that there are new releases coming out, and then you have distilleries like Dancing Sands and 1919, which have built reputations on being really solid gin producers. We've now got a rum. 1919 now has a range of whiskey, which is exciting. 3 core bottlings, and then again, this Fenton Street with another gin producer coming out with a whiskey that I don't know if we're going to see more of this, just due to the lag of how long it takes to produce whiskey versus producing gin. Whether there are some more gin producers out there that are all of a sudden going to come out with an aged spirit. But just, exciting that even in and amongst some of the wider negative economic talk, that there is still really exciting stuff happening in the spirits industry.
Yeah, no reason not to get behind it and still just try some stuff. And remember, if you don't want to go out and buy a new bottle, then come along to a spirits tasting with Discovering Drams.
Absolutely. I've been really organised this year, and I have planned ahead, and I've got a few happening at Smoke and Barrel, but I'm also coming to Juniper Collective, and I'm doing some here, and so it's an opportunity for me to open up and try some new things, but that's why I love going to events as a punter, why I love hosting events, and it's because there is just so much out there, and if it weren't for events like this, whether hosted by me or by somebody else, like, when would I have an opportunity to try them all?
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't. My budget is not so big that I can buy every bottle that I would like to buy. It's and so a tasting event where. Here we go. Okay, another wee side topic here. So for my last one, I had a gentleman respond to my email with the dates to basically say, what's your lineup? I want to hear what your lineup is before committing to buying a ticket or not. And ultimately I said, if you want to find out what my lineup is, you need to buy a ticket. Because it's just, otherwise it gets too hard for people to... I've had other people who have come to an event and I may well have included something that they've tried before, but they've said, actually, tasting it, one, as part of a lineup, and two, getting a bit more of a story about the people who made it, where it's made, and how it's made, all this kind of... I'm seeing it in a new kind of light. So I won't, and I know... I don't know, some people do, some people don't, but I won't post my lineup of what I am pouring in advance of the event. But I will always go for, hey, what's new, what's different, what's something that you are unlikely to have heard of.
Yeah, you're not one to repeat spirits.
I don't.
Every tasting or anything like that. You really look for something different every time. You want to give people an experience. And look, if you've tried it somewhere else, like you say, you're bringing a new dimension, a new perspective on it. And sometimes when you've tried that spirit for the first time, sometimes it was maybe it was in a different atmosphere. Maybe you tried something different before it. Maybe you tried, and you might have a different perspective the second time trying it. So it's not always the end of the world if you try the same thing twice.
And the look, if nothing else, the catering is always good.
Yes. That's totally true. So look, if you've got any questions, if you want to learn more about spirits and whatnot, come into the Juniper Collective, check us out on socials, Distil-Nation NZ. Send us an email with any questions, or if you have suggestions, distilnationnz@gmail.com. And we'll keep you updated as much as we can on what's happening in the world of New Zealand spirits. I think it's always looking up. We've still got lots of time to see a lot of new whiskies coming, a lot of new rums, and who knows what else, right? Like there's stuff coming, people. So yeah, get excited.
I'm excited. Cheers.